Along with you on this Tuesday here in May. Beautiful, beautiful May in Ohio. You're tuned into The Exchange, joined by Charlie Evers, Fritz the Night Owl, Marianne Michaels, and sitting in with us this week, Fritz's old pal, a broadcasting legend, Chuck White from WBNS in Columbus. We're going to go round table, round robin here in just a moment, but first we need to mention our sponsors, as The Exchange is brought to you by the Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Centers, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. Call 740-386-6580. Night Owl Theater, located on the net at www.fritzlives.com. For more info, email nightowltv@yahoo.com, and that's NITEOWLTV@yahoo.com. And by Bucyrus Placemats. To put an ad in, call Wayne, 419-562-8473, located at 116 Wayne Avenue over in Bucyrus, also located on the net at bucyrusplacemats.com. And now, as we do each and every day, we're going to head over to my good friend and yours, a broadcasting pioneer here in Marion, Charlie Evers, with fascinating facts. Charlie?
Yeah, let's go back about 400 million years, just like yesterday.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, that's right. Back then, of course, this area was underwater. This was a very large sea and had been for a few million years. And when the water dried up, you might say, well, left all these animals behind. It became limestone. But the limestone only came so far east. And then there was another feature carved out by the glaciers, a lot of what we call gravel. And so in Marion County, we have limestone on the west side and gravel on the east. And the two shall meet.
The two shall meet.
But that all happened hundreds of millions of years ago. And of course, limestone now is in such great use for asphalt. And in fact, they're using some gravel that way too. And more gravel pits are being dug in next door in Morrow County. So it kind of made it kind of dull, but it's kind of interesting, the fact that some of us sit on shale, and some of us sit on limestone, and some of us just plain sit.
Which we are all doing right now.
You betcha.
Before we get over to the flick pick this week, I forgot to tell the Colonel Sanders famous recipe story.
Yes, I want to hear that.
Get ready, Charlie. This is going to be brilliant. It'll just fascinate you. Colonel Sanders obviously came up with the idea for KFC, and it was based on his original recipe. So many herbs, so many spices. Well, Colonel Sanders got older. None of his kids were interested in running the business, so he sold Kentucky Fried Chicken to the Pepsi Corporation, which incidentally is why you get Pepsi when you go to Taco Bell or KFC. They're owned by Pepsi. Well, the Colonel ended up living an extraordinarily long life. I think he lived to 90 or 91. Ended up passing away from leukemia, but he got to be about 75, and he was still working for KFC. He became an employee because his face was so recognizable as Colonel Sanders KFC. So Pepsi had him as an employee now. Well, they changed the recipe, and this made the Colonel irate. He threw fits. Give me back my recipe. I'm suing you. I want to own KFC again. You've ruined it. Very particular about his chicken. Just ask Dave Thomas when he was around. So anyway, Colonel Sanders ends up deciding he's going to start another franchise. It's America. He can do that. So he opens up another franchise, but they tell him, KFC says, well, wait a second. We own your name. We own your face. We own you as a marketing tool. You cannot do commercials. You can't use the name. You can't use the face to promote this new business. But they gave him the recipe they weren't using anymore, hence Famous Recipe. Chicken.
No kidding.
So if you go to Famous Recipe, you're getting Colonel Sanders chicken.
Interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
It sure has a lot to do with limestone.
I don't know what that has to do with limestone. Oh, Charlie. We'll see if Charlie will still be around Wednesday. It's debatable right now. If you don't have anything to do tonight, you don't want to hear that story again, I'm sure you're DVRing this right now. You're just going to replay that all night long. We're going to give you a guy who maybe can give you something to do tonight. The Flick Pick with Fritz the Night Owl. Fritz?
Thank you, Scott. Tonight we transcend the boundaries of time and space, take you back to the days of BC. Movie is called Fall of the Roman Empire. Made in 1964, it's a big, bold, exciting, colorful, a kind of history nouveau, if you will, filled with clashing armies, gladiators, human sacrifices, sibling rivalry, romance, comedy, just about everything you'd want, fratricide, battles with Syrians, Egyptians, Armenians, Persians, good Romans, and bad. Stars are Sophia Loren, always, you get 2 stars in the movie just because she's in it. Stephen Boyd, James Mason, Alec Guinness, Christopher Plummer, Omar Sharif, to name just a few. Basically, the plot revolves around who's going to become emperor after the death of Marcus Aurelius, played by Alec Guinness. Talk about heavyweight actors. Aurelius tells his daughter, Sophia, that he wants Stephen Boyd to be the new Caesar, but Stephen Boyd doesn't want to do the job, so it falls to Christopher Plummer, who's got a huge ego, a sense of power, and that causes the empire to start to decay and erode. Along the way, Christopher Plummer has the bad taste to kill Sophia's husband, tries to burn her at the stake, and has to fight it out with Stephen Boyd for the job of emperor. Boyd, of course, wins. He still doesn't want the job, but that's the way it was back then. It's intelligent, but not overly factual. Great music by Dmitri Tiomkin. Say that name fast 20 times. Dmitri Tiomkin did a lot of great movie scores, one of the great composers for film. The authentic sets and costuming are outstanding. It all combines to make it a very visual, very exciting, nice way to spend a couple of hours. Fall of the Roman Empire, hey, you were there.
Hey, there you go. Sounds like a great one. Doesn't it, Chuck? Sounds like a... I saw Chuck fiddling around with a mint there during... I was coming to him no matter what. Fritz could have said anything, and I was coming to Chuck for the next...
You usually do this to Mary Ann.
I'm coming right to you. I know, I'm sorry, Chuck. I'm sorry. I had to do it. But Chuck and Fritz, of course, have a long association, and I think one day, or each day this week, we're going to touch on a person in WBNS history who I'm sure you're familiar with, who Chuck and Fritz can kind of give an insight to. Today, we have to pick one of my all-time favorites, sadly passed away a few years ago, Flippo the Clown. Fritz, tell us about Flippo.
Well, again, working with Flippo was, it was one of those things that you say, my goodness, they're actually paying me to do this. Because, I mean, Flippo, whether he was on camera or off camera, the guy was just always on. And we always enjoyed, he was also a terrific musician and a very good magician. So when he, over the weekends, he would go to the magic shop, and on Mondays we always liked Flippo because A, he'd have a new magic trick to show us, and then he'd also been to the musician's picnic on Sunday, so he always had some great jokes that he could tell us, but he could not tell on the air. Yeah, delightful guy. But just watching him, I mean, as a performer, you learned how to deal with an audience, how to get timing, how to pause for a laugh, when to go. So we learned from him. He was a good friend, fun guy, whether he was in May. Well, actually, whether he had the red nose on or he was just Bob Marvin, he was a terrific, same guy, terrific guy to know. What can I say?
Chuck, I want you to talk about Flippo, Bob Marvin, but I also want you to relay a story you relayed when he passed away. You went to see Bob right before he passed away. He speaks to his sense of humor right up till the end.
He always had a great sense of humor, just a magical sense of humor, as a matter of fact. And the day before he died, the rabbi went into his room and says, Bob, is there anything I can do for you in your time of need? And he said, yeah, you can call over on the other side and get me good seats.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But interesting about Flippo, and both Fritz and I, in the course of our careers, were his floor director. We floor directed his show at one time or another. And Fritz before me, and then me later. But you could, you could almost set your clock, your watch, by which part of the paint went on his face. It was the exact time every day, and at a certain time, the white face went on, then at a certain time, the black, the red lips, and then the black, and then the eyes. But while he was getting his makeup on, all of the guys in the station are in the dressing room with him. He's cracking jokes, nothing that you could say on the air, you know, but to us, he was hilarious. And actually, even when he was on the air, much of his humor was adult humor, but the kids liked it because he was a clown. But much of his verbal humor was a little bit adult in terms of its content.
You know, one of the great thrills and lucky things of my life was getting to interview Flippo before he passed away, Bob. And you're right, he was funny even out of costume. And I remember I heard him tell this joke a few times, but it was a funny joke, and I've used it sometimes when you get these public speaking things. And the joke is funny, and it's very clean. I mean, it's clean enough to tell. It's just a husband and a wife. They're celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary. And the husband goes up to the wife and says, what can I get you for the 30th wedding anniversary? He said, well, I don't really know. And the husband says, well, what about a new car? No, I don't want a new car. How about a trip around the world? No, I don't want a trip around the world. How about a diamond ring? No, I don't want a diamond ring. Well, he says, what do you want? And she says, a divorce. And the husband says, well, I wasn't planning on spending that much. That's Bob Marvin humor, and it's very funny, and he was very funny, a classic. From a funny note here, we have to move into a very serious note because we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Last Sunday night, Osama bin Laden, after 10 years, is captured in Pakistan. Public enemy number one, FBI's most wanted, done, gone. Marianne, weigh in on this.
Well, of course, it was exciting. I was watching TV at the time when that bulletin came on, and I just couldn't believe it. And I am so proud of our president after hearing the background of what he went through in that Situation Room. And he tried to cover all bases. He wanted to know the pluses, the minuses, what would happen if this happened. And, he could have taken the easy route. He could have just gone in and bombed the place where he was staying. But that would not, there would have been a lot of collateral damage, and then there also wouldn't be proof that he actually was there. And those Navy SEALs, wow. I can't even comprehend what they were able to do. And I guess this wasn't the first problem that they were involved in. I know they had some other ones, but we don't know who they are, and we should never know who they are because they would be targets, obviously. Right. But I was just so proud of everything. I was elated. I know that, he apparently doesn't have the same power that he had, at first, but he was the embodiment of evil, and he's gone. And I'm just thrilled.
Charlie, I'm going to take a risk here of being said that I'm political. This is not a political statement. The speech Obama gave after, the gutsy decision to do what he did, I heard people on the Republican side of the fence saying, let's just skip the next election because this guy's got a lot of momentum now, and he has done something very few leaders have been able to do, and that's get a body, get the criminal. How many times we never got Hitler's body? Remember that. Charlie, what do you make of this?
Yes, the more I think about it, when he made the decision to send in the SEALs instead of the full military force, he must have thought, if something goes wrong, this is going to end my career probably. I would not be reelected. But I give him so much credit for having the true interest of America at heart, and aside from anything that might happen, he wanted the best job done, and the SEALs did it. And I can only imagine, they were watching all this take place on satellite TV. And can you imagine when that helicopter crashed or came down, was in trouble, what went through their minds like, oh no, this,
Oh.
no. But, and now it's kind of funny, being political a little bit. Now, some of the conservative commentators on the radio are saying, well, he just continued on what Bush started.
Here's the thing about that. You know what? Bush did want to get bin Laden. I'm sure he did.
Oh, yeah.
Clinton wanted to get bin Laden. But we cannot take this away from Barack Obama. You just can't do it. It's not a time to minimize that.
Absolutely.
Chuck, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. This is what he did, and he made some, I'm sure the man he made some very, very serious thought, gave a great deal of thought to what was happening, and give him credit. I mean, this is something that he did in his administration, and you can't take that away from him. You can you can come up with this political bull about his birth and all that which is absurd.
What a thing to follow last week.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's absolutely absurd. But one of the points that he made is that it was not a fight against Muslim or Islam. It was a fight against a person who was a terrorist, who happened to be Muslim, but it was not a fight against the Islam or Muslim. So, and another thing that I think he did that was very, very cool, it was that Osama bin Laden was buried at sea. So there is no site to which martyrs can go to and worshipers can go to, and to those who think that he should have continued to live. I think most Americans will agree that this was a great coup.
And all the time this was going on, you realized he visited Tuscaloosa, and
Yes.
he went down to Cape Canaveral. He was all in the back of his mind. He had to be
Correspondence dinner.
thinking about this, but yet he did all these other things. Now, if that's not leadership, I don't know what is.
I totally agree with you.
Fritz, when Obama came on the TV Sunday night around 11:30, the speech he gave, which Chuck alluded to there, saying this is not any particular religion, this is terrorism. I felt the man was Churchill-esque in the way he spoke on Sunday night.
Have to agree. And in addition of what some people, again, are sort of saying, well, why did he wait so long to make the speech on television? What they don't tell you is that one of the things he wanted to do was call ex-President Bush first to tell him, as one of the first people to know when they had confirmed that all of this was a fait accompli, he had the class to say, hey, Bush started this, he should be one of the first to know. And so apparently it took a little time to get in touch with President Bush, but that shows, again, the class that Obama has, and again, great in all areas.
To watch the celebrations that Sunday night in front of the White House at Ground Zero, it's certainly not the end of the war on terror. Obviously, that's going to go on forever. But it made you feel like maybe what started on September 11th, that chapter is over. The
And
guy
all of the
who did it.
colleges, the college students
The
went
college
out.
students.
West Virginia University, where my son graduated from, they had a big demonstration. Ohio State did, and a lot of the colleges all over the country, they just went out. They were just thrilled to death because they were in junior high when we had 9/11.
Charlie, a big discussion has come about in the past week or so that some people have been very much against torture. We don't know that the information came from waterboarding yet, but some people are saying that maybe some of that information that was obtained at Guantanamo Bay led to this man's capture. Is it okay to torture?
Yes. I mean, it shows right there. Some of the information they got that aided them, if not totally directed them to the site where Obama was living, or where
Osama.
Osama was living, came from one of the men I think they waterboarded. And if that's what it takes, go right ahead, because no enemy of ours would hesitate to torture us.
I understand that. I understand that, Charlie, and I understand if this came from waterboarding, that's great. Osama bin Laden is a horrible guy and he's gone, thank God.
That's not a fact.
Well, to me, it's not American.
I
just-
agree.
You
I
cannot torture.
totally
I don't
agree.
think you can.
I think torture, it's been known to be ineffective. I mean, I've read and heard all kinds of people saying that torture does, a person that is tortured will tell you anything that you want to hear.
I would think under duress, she might
This
have.
was wonderful intelligence. That's what they were able to find this man. It was intelligence.
Right, but
The
it ha-
CIA and the other people involved in intelligence, and that's what
I
everybody
agree
is
with
saying.
Mary Ann. I'm not sure that there's any indication that anyone was tortured. in
I
order
don't
to
think
get-
so.
I
I
think this
really
was, this was strictly intelligence, and it was really good intelligence.
Well, I think, Chuck, I think here's where the difference is. You're right, they haven't said that torture got this, but they are implying that the intelligence, one of the manners they used to get the intelligence they did was through the things they were doing at Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, but who's saying this? I mean,
Well, I think that's being released from the center media. It's not a right or a left thing.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of information hasn't come out. But if perhaps the waterboarding did get some of this information, because I think right now it's hindering on a name. It's a name of a person
it's
they
the
got.
courier.
Yeah, the
They
name
were
of the
able to-
courier that they got. Is it okay to do it if it led to the capture of the most horrible guy in the history of the world?
I still think it's wrong. I totally do
Chuck,
not.
is it right if it leads to
I
most
have mixed feelings about that. I really do. I have some very strong mixed feelings about it. It is not the American way to do things. It's not. And I have some real strong negative reactions to torture. But when I see what happened, if that is a result of torture, sometimes, I think every case is different. Every single time it's different.
Fritz, wrap us up on this. What do you think?
Well, I'm like the rest. I have mixed reactions. The American part of me, the Christian part of me says no, and then the other part, the vindictive part of me says anything you got to do to get the info is solid. So mixed reaction. Then again, you got to define what is torture. I mean, watching repetitive episodes of My Mother in the Car for 48 hours could make me tell anybody anything.
Smoke out anybody with that
So,
program.
the definition of terms.
Well, I tell you, on this Tuesday, we're going to wrap up. We've got a great performer in this week. She's going to perform today. She's going to perform later on in the week. She's going to join the panel one day this week. Her name is Brianna Goodwin. Brianna, center stage is yours here on The Exchange. Going to sing a great tune for us.
No good two-time lies coming out of your mouth. Cheating, mistreating games that you played, they got you now. Broke my heart, tore apart, look who's got the last laugh now. Well, don't you come crawling back, begging please on your knees. Baby, if you're missing me, well, you can hear me on the radio. You wanna turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along while they're playing our song. How you done me wrong, baby, crank it up until you blow the speakers out your Chevy truck. So listen, Romeo, when you're feeling kinda low, let me tell you where to go. Turn on your radio. Try to call, tweet or me, texting till your fingers bleed. Well, the DJ's the only way you're ever gonna hear from me. But if you're reminiscing and you're missing me this much, and you really wanna stay in touch, well, you can hear me on the radio. You wanna turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along while they're playing our song. How you done me wrong, baby, crank it up until you blow the speakers out your Chevy truck. So listen, Romeo, when you're feeling kinda low, let me tell you where to go. Turn on your radio. turn on your radio. Oh, oh, hear me on the radio. You wanna turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along while they're playing our song. How you done me wrong, baby, crank it up until you blow the speakers out your Chevy truck. So listen, Romeo, when you're feeling kinda low, let me tell you where to go. When you're feeling kinda low, let me tell you where to go. Turn on your radio. Turn on your radio. Turn on your radio. Oh, turn on your radio. Turn on your radio. Oh, turn on your radio.
Hey! Now, Brianna Goodwin, she'll be with us later on in the week, joining the panel on Thursday. You don't want to go anywhere. Chuck White will be sticking with us. Brenda Donegan and Dr. Scott Gray, the chiropractor. Hey, where else would you want to be? Catch you tomorrow.